thank you so much for being here today. And we're going to be talking about AlUla, like you just saw. And my name is Sucharita, and I'm going to start with you, Ali, because Kandahar. Let's start there, because you have recently spent. When were you shooting in AlUla?
Oh, it was a while back.
It was a while back.
A year ago.
1 year ago. So
One,
that's
yeah,
not...
1.5. Yeah, 1.5 years ago.
So Kandahar was the first.
Oh shoot, sorry. Yeah, 2 years.
It's fine, man.
It'll be
The
2 years now.
pandemic has warped all our sense of
I know,
time.
I know,
Like
the
everything
sense of
just
time is
merges
gone.
into each other. But as Kandahar is the first movie, international production that was shot in AlUla.
Yes.
So,
Sorry,
Desert what?
no, the first one was Cherry, which was before the pandemic.
Oh.
Russo Brothers.
See, the
That was
pandemic
first
has warped our
international.
sense of time.
That was the first international, but Kantar is one of the biggest ones, that international ones that we've shot in AlUla.
Kandahar is the one that we're going to talk about today.
That's
because
absolutely fine, which is great. We've got Ali here.
I mean, I've spoken to you about the film, and I really like the film, and we've discussed it. What was your first impression of AlUla when you got there, and what was your last impression when you finally left 3 months after? 3 months, right? You were there?
Yeah, almost 3 months. We were just talking about it, and it was like entering a sort of a bit of a dream, because we haven't seen that kind of terrain before. And you don't associate that terrain with Saudi Arabia. And I've been to Saudi Arabia as a kid. My father used to be there for a while, to different cities. But this AlUla was like suddenly this thing in the middle of all of that, and it really changed our perception. Of course, it was great weather because we entered. I came in November. Yeah, November.
Yeah.
And then we started shoot end of November, December, January. Perfect months to be in AlUla. And and when I left, I mean, it felt like home.
It did. So
It really
3
did.
months you spent there.
Yeah, good 3 months.
So can you give us like tips on what to do in AlUla when anybody wants to visit?
Listen, everything.
Restaurants, etc.
So it's not that big, but
Yeah.
it's very beautiful, and it's got a lot of culture hidden everywhere. Even though they're very like modern, buildings coming up, and the Mariah where we heard Justin Bieber had just had a concert, and I was like, okay, because Banyan Tree was the hotel that we were at,
Yeah.
and it was still being made.
Yeah.
So we had these sort of tents, that would be moving because of the wind. It was heavy winds at night, so that was a bit eerie first 2 days, and then we got used to it. And then, of course, slowly, you have these wonderful rides, and towards the Hegra side, the old, what's the civilization, the abandoned, the place, what's it called? Yeah, the Nabataean. Yeah, a lot of them.
So if you're into if you're a history person as well, there's enough for you to do and explore.
Oh, there's a lot. There's a
Yeah.
lot. I suppose we were the disruptors there. We were like this big team of 200 people, blasting
stars.
stuff off. Yeah, cars all over. So, yeah.
Mahsa, on that note, I'm going to come to you, and I apologize. I'm going to be reading off my phone a little bit because I just don't want to get anything wrong. It's very rude, but I apologize. You're the marketing director for film AlUla. What is the importance, according to you, of developing international relationships like AlUla and India, Saudi and India, via cinema, via films? Because it's the one language that everyone in the whole world speaks.
That's right, and it's all about storytelling. And there are a lot of stories that are out there in the Middle East that have not been heard before, especially in Saudi Arabia. As you know, cinema opened about 5 years ago. They opened up cinema. So it's all about the power of storytelling and the stories that have never been heard before, and to bring them out to the international world.
Rakeysh, sir, I'm going to come to you on that note. Have you lost count of the number of times your films have been called poetry in motion in reviews because of the visuals that you present on screen? Is that something you hear often about the visuals in your movies?
I've always said, if I were blind, the visual will be much better. It's all my DOP, not me.
It's your DOP and the cinematography.
I actually interfere there.
But when you are looking for locations for your films, do you let your cinematography team take the lead, or is that something that you decide where you want to go, international specifically?
It all kind of takes on from the story and the script and the requirement of the script.
Yeah.
You can't be random about it. It's not just because it's beautiful, so you go there.
Yeah.
It needs to serve the story. It's everything, every word written in the script, every character casted, every beat of music, every frame shot has to serve the film.
But also as a producer, because you're also producing, what are the kind of logistics that you are, and I'm going to ask this question to the other producers on the panel as well, what are the logistics that you want to keep in mind when you are taking a whole crew to an international location?
I think there's a larger discussion here on AlUla than just the locations and the logistics. That I've been in meetings and they're more than taken care of.
Yeah.
It's like, can't wait to go there. We are looking forward, both me and Ritesh, to take my next film there. I think it's more like movies are like a cultural touch point. And in South Asia, we've been making movies for more than 100 years.
Yeah.
And so we have come to a point. And now I truly believe that in the UAE and especially AlUla and the neighboring nations can be the epicenter of Asian filmmaking. And in terms of the ambition I've seen the glint in the eyes, I've seen of the entire team. And they really want to do it and make a change. So it's more about the change I think they'll bring about.
Ritesh, Excel has done international collaborations before. You shot Dawn in Malaysia, Zindagi in Spain, in Berlin. An Excel film was shot Berlin, right? Yeah. What is it about AlUla? Rakeysh just mentioned that you are moving there for your next film.
I think, firstly, good morning, everybody. I think what it's offering is like in terms of it's still little unexplored.
Yeah.
So it's locations, what it has there. They're also putting up a very strong infrastructure with studios, And I think it's something which you as a storyteller, when you are writing a script, you organically, if you feel something which has not been explored and it fits seamlessly into the screenplay, into your story, becomes a character. And that's why we've chosen, rightfully when you said, Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, you could find all those three conflicts which the three characters had to go through very easily within that one country.
Right.
So it seamlessly got, and it happened just organically. I remember very distinctly that we were actually on a road trip. Farhan, me with this whole group of friends, and Zoya, Rima with their group of friends.
Yeah.
So it just organically just happened, and we were there, and I remember Zoya saying like, we should
ये
do a
अच्छा लग
movie.
रहा है, यही करते हैं ना?
Yeah, and then she went back, and in 3 months, actually, they turned around that script. So hopefully, when Mahsa invites us to AlUla, we'll go there and probably come back with a stronger story to tell them.
I know, but this is like what Excel does also. No, Farhan Akhtar has gone to Goa, so we will make Dil Chahta Hai. Now we've gone to Spain, we will make Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara. Must be nice. Adam, I'm going to ask the same question to you about the logistics of taking a crew to an international location. What is it that you're expecting in a collaboration such as that for the people that you're going to make it easier for you?
Okay, so I'm primarily a documentary producer, so it's quite a different approach. We wouldn't be talking about if we were coming to AlUla or Saudi, it wouldn't be with a big crew. We work with very small crews and we work ourselves. So I think I come at this from a bit of a different angle. I think documentary is all about sort of cultural connections and communicating across cultures, and we would go where the story is. We tend to make more arts and culture type of documentaries, but all documentaries are political. So I think one of the big questions for us would be, is that compatible with what AlUla and Saudi more generally is prepared to support? Because if we were going to Saudi, I mean, it looks fascinating, I have to say, just looking at the clips there, it looks like a wonderful place. I would love to visit it. But what kind of story would we find there? And to what degree is AlUla interested in the kinds of documentary stories that could be told? And might have an opinion about whether some kinds of stories wouldn't be suitable to be supported, or whether there's a sort of broadly sort of liberal cultural approach to that. So I mean that's a slightly different issue. And in terms of the logistics of crews, I mean although I make documentaries, I know that there's a question about how much crew you take from where you're coming from and how much crew you can employ there and what the balance of that is. I know that, say, from the UK, which itself is a very big territory for kind of inward production, a lot of Hollywood films come and shoot in the UK. One of the reasons they come and shoot there is it's a bit more expensive. There are incentives, but it tends to be more expensive than many other places, but you have an exceptionally high standard of crews. So they can go there, as well as for American films, knowing, you know, they speak the same language as the crews, but also they will get Hollywood standards. And the experience that British productions have had going to other locations, like I would take the example of Eastern Europe, is it looks very cheap on paper. You know, there's good incentives and the crews are cheap, but the level of competence and professionalism isn't often there. And so when producers come back or when they're there, they talk about the nightmare of trying to make a film. You know, it's a false economy. So I think for someone like AlUla, the interesting question would be, are you offering that level of professionalism that a kind of international crew? I mean, you were talking about 100 years of experience of making films in India. You have a particular way, you know, of doing things, you know how to do it. If you're going to come to a place which is new to film production, is the infrastructure there that's going to support your expectations of professionalism? And I think if someone like AlUla can offer that, then it becomes incredibly attractive. If people can trust that they can come there and rely on the crews and to be professional and competent and skilled, and also on a very specific issue of safety, that's a huge issue. You know, we've had examples where, you know, friends of ours have, you know, had deaths on set in shooting in Africa, for example, not necessarily to do with being in Africa, but, you know, when you go abroad, that's absolutely a huge issue for producers. You know, on a practical level, that's a specific issue around professional competence. So those are all the kind of questions I think that any producer of, you know, I mean, documentaries perhaps a bit different, but of a sort of high-end, expensive film or TV series would have. Yes, the money's great. Yes, the locations are fantastic. But when I get there, is it going to all run smoothly? Is everyone going to know their jobs? Or am I going to have a huge number of problems I'm going to have to solve?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Those are very, very valid concerns and very, very valid points for a documentary filmmaker. And, you know, I'm going to circle back to you about the documentary scene in India also right now, and if you've been following what we've been doing, because we've been having quite a moment. But Mahsa, how do you respond to that? What are the things that your team is doing to facilitate, as a new country, inviting people in?
So as you said, I mean, the financials are there. Can you hear me? Yeah. So in terms of the financials, yes, we've got the 40% rebate and we've got additional incentives that we add to that rebate. It's all depending on who's behind the camera, in front of the camera, the marketing deliverables that come with it, and also training. Because as you know, we're very new. Film AlUla is about 3 years old and cinema is very new in Saudi. So we're building a film ecosystem and we're training crew to be able to be on ground. So less crew travel with the team, and it will be even cheaper. So at this stage, we give all the support in terms of getting the visas done, getting the facility, like permits, everything. We do that on ground for you. And the crew, at this point, we do have some local crew that we are using. Like, to just give you an example, Kantar, when they did the filming, they used about 30% local crew. And then about 7 months after that, when we did the first Saudi feature film, which was entirely shot in AlUla, they used 70% Saudi crew. So we're improving all of that. Right now, we're using people from like Jordan, Lebanon, Egypt, but we're running a lot of programs to train not only people from Saudi, all around Saudi, but specifically AlUla. We did a partnership with Creative Skills, the Pinewood training arm, and they did a program for us about a few months ago training AlUlans. What we encourage is that all the big productions we're having is to take on training. So while they're on set, they get to train them. Nothing is better than having trained on set. So we're building all of that. But everything else in terms of support, government permits, all of that, we provide as Film AlUla.
Are you funding the training aspect of it for the local crews?
Yes, we are. Yes. On most aspects, we're funding it, and also when they're film productions, we will recruit them and work closely with the productions to train these people.
Do you find these kinds of incentives coming from other countries as well, specifically as a documentary filmmaker, when organizations such as Film AlUla reach out and say, we're going to fund this, we're going to provide the training, as a documentary filmmaker specifically?
For me, I mean, we probably fall below the radar, to be honest, as far as, you know, the kinds of money. If we get it's kind of a, what's that, catch-22. If we fly under the radar, we can make films very, very cheaply.
Yep.
You know, the technology is such now, particularly for documentary, that it's so small, so lightweight. You know, directors can self-shoot. You don't have to build up massive budgets. And so in terms of financial incentives, it's kind of hard to, it's more complicated, it's more trouble than it's worth necessarily to access. I think where it would be potentially useful is to have logistical support if you wanted to go and shoot somewhere. But that, again, gets into the issue of what kinds of films, is there a restriction on the kinds of films that a local screen agency, wherever, is prepared to support? Because documentaries are often telling quite difficult stories. Yeah. So, you know, that's a larger cultural question as to what you know, how broadly, what kind of editorial oversight there might need, you know, want to be from the country you're going to, wherever it is, into what you do. Because quite often, I have to say, you know, it's more trouble than it's worth to get official permits to go and shoot places. You know, we shot in Morocco a couple of years ago, and we could have gone through a whole process. We weren't doing anything, you know, controversial. It was entirely cultural, but just getting a permit and doing all that officially just wasn't worth it. You just went as a tourist and shot what you had to shoot and came out. And yeah.
With regards to, with AlUla, because we're part of the Royal Commission for AlUla, and we are. And basically all the sites there, in order to get the permits, we are governing all of that. So it's very easy for us to be able to, if you're doing a documentary and there's certain areas that you need to shoot, we provide that to be able to get the permits. You don't have to go and do it independently.
I mean, I can absolutely imagine a documentary about the Ottoman Empire, for example. I think the BBC is making one at the moment, actually. Yeah. Absolutely fascinating subject, and one that is incredibly timely with everything that's going on in the Middle East in terms of, you know, somebody commented the other day that in British schools we get taught about the Vietnam War and the civil rights movement in America, and we don't get taught about the Ottoman Empire and India and all of that, really. And these are absolutely the crucial areas to understand what's going on, you know, in the world today. So I you know, watching this and thinking about the kind of history that has unfolded particularly in your area, in the northern part of Saudi, you know, in the last century, I can absolutely imagine how, like, a big BBC documentary about something like that would benefit from the logistical support you could provide.
And we've had documentaries done by Nat Geo, so there's been 2 or 3 programs they've done, and last year was the first one they launched, and there's going to be another one this year through Nat Geo.
So is there a specific kind of special kind of branch or a team of people that are doing documentaries, and then a separate kind of Film AlUla division that's doing feature films, fiction, non-fiction? Do you have that division, or is it one team and then you kind of deploy resources accordingly?
No, it's one team we have a team that manages the locations. So they're the ones who will be able to go and get all the permits, whether it's for feature films or documentary.
Ali, coming back to you, Kandahar, Masha just mentioned about having 30% local crew and you know, having all the facilities there for the trainings, et cetera, et cetera. What was your experience working with the local crew at AlUla? You learned how to ride a bike in the desert and things like that. Did you feel like there was enough people to take care of you so you don't hurt yourself, et cetera?
No, we had amazing help from all the local crews that were there. Of course, you know, like you mentioned, it was one of the first films being shot at that scale in that area. Of course, there were teething problems to begin with, but then everybody was learning. And we as actors, as performers, we were also kind of getting an idea of the lay of the land. Yeah. But I think what's really amazing is that how AlUla is also, through all of this, there's a chance to preserve the culture, a culture that's not been seen, not been exposed, you know. And in a very, how do you say, a very delicate world that we are in today, it's very important to be able to do that, you know, while countries are being wiped out as we speak. So this is very important. And of course, we as filmmakers, as artists, and I can call myself a producer now, we've produced our first film, very excited, but a very small one. Hopefully come to AlUla one day and shoot something, or in that, because I think it's beautiful. I think the opportunities there are beautiful. I think, like Rakeysh so mentioned, people are very eager to learn. And when that happens, there's evolution, and positive evolution. And I think something cool came out of that. Of course, I mean, you know, the cool part was me learning the bike and chasing Gerard Butler.
And fighting with Gerard Butler in a storm of dust and then coming out looking cooler than Gerard Butler, I have to tell you that. It's true. I've told you this before.
Yes, you've been very sweet about it. But it was hard, it was fun, you know, because like Ritesh also mentioned, locations become characters in your films. And that's what I admired about Rick, that he almost took the valley in, you know, those natural scapes that engulf that entire area. They were very much part of the film. Even though we're cheating the location, we're not saying it's AlUla.
Yeah, exactly.
Which was my actually question, you know, how does it work? I mean, at one point...
Does that hurt your feelings? Like they've shot it AlUla and they're saying this is not AlUla?
I mean, somewhere somebody draws a line, right? Or says, you know what, that's... iske aage nahi. No, you can't say... this is Afghanistan or whatever. But I guess that's you know, we're in the movie making business. I mean, it's got to happen somewhere.
You embellish for effect. We're telling stories at the end of the day.
So many cheats we've done.
Rakesh, like anytime Excel makes a film internationally, tourism increases. People are now going to Spain because Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara is like, oh wow, amazing. Tomatina Fest, amazing, let's go. Do you feel a sense of responsibility when you're shooting in an international location, the way you're presenting the country, the way you're presenting its people, its culture, its food, its clothes, costumes, because cinema is there for posterity. It's not going away anywhere. So people are going to watch this 10 years, 20 years, 50 years from now. Do you feel a sense of responsibility when you're putting that on your screen?
Frankly, I don't know how to answer that. My responsibility and loyalty is to the script, and first to the script, and then second to the script, and third again to the script. So whatever is the requirement. Having said that, responsibility is a very complex word, and I can't simplify it. Yes, definitely you got to be responsible to the local culture. You have to be responsible to the to the environment, to the people. There is a responsibility of not to hurt any sentiments of where you go, because you are going there out of a choice you made. And so there's a whole lot of that going on. But I must add, you know, while I was hearing you, and I just drifted away, and in a way, like went a bit deeper inside. And so there were silent films, and then there were talkies, and then there was analog, and then now we've gone to digital. And now AI is entering a life in terms of storytelling. While AlUla has by far one of the most beautiful locations in the world, and they're specific to that, there is also a huge opportunity to develop backlogs, and entertainment is meeting technology today. And that's the future of storytelling. I can't speak for documentaries. They're very specific, and they're subjects. And if you're making a documentary on stray dogs in India, which I'm making one now, it will happen over 3 years. So we shoot a bit every month, and it's a lovely story. But having said that, I think if we can bring these two streams together, which is the modern technology and entertainment, which is storytelling. And AlUla has the bandwidth and the dream, and dreams should be ambitious. You should be limited by your dream to be, like I said, the center in this part of the world. Because for that, you go beyond locations. You create facilities and infrastructures. And yes, that should be the key reason to go there, not just the rebates. Right. That's fine, because rebates will become like a competition. Okay, Spain is offering 35, I mean, for 50, India will offer something, UK will offer something, all that is fine. So, and I think I'll be very keen to spend a lot of time there in the coming years and to see how it works out. It's such a, it should be an adventure, yeah?
Yeah. Ritesh, I'm going to throw the same question to you, though. When you are taking your films, Excel films are big budget and they reach a very wide audience all over the world. Do you, as a producer, I mean, Rakesh spoke as a producer and a director and a writer for his scripts, and that's his vision. But as a producer, do you feel that sense of responsibility when you're representing a country in a certain way?
You know, I mean, of course, I mean, but that is, like I said, it's collaborative. You know what I mean? Like, if you, like in for Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, it had to be in a certain way because you were also sharing your culture, you know, with them in terms of what it is, and you were in a certain way bringing that and merging it. Like, you know, when you do with Running of the Bulls, there is a tradition. What happens with it? Now, if you go to see, you have to be a little responsible because, you know, in most places it's actually banned, right? So you have to do a fine balance, but it happens in interaction with them. You know what I mean? So I feel, of course, there is a responsibility because you have to make sure that you don't hurt anyone. You show it in the right light, and that's how it is. But I think, you know, like even when I saw this video today for the first time, I think the most important thing, what they're planning to do and what is actually exciting, see, of course, logistics, they'll put up, you know what I mean, infrastructure, because also when you go there and you shoot for a long period of time, your crew, that it almost becomes their second home. They are working together for 10 to 12 hours a day. They're working hard, and then beyond that 12 hours, what they do will reflect about the next day when they come to work. So I think they're trying to make sure that logistically they'll figure out various stuff. But I think the most interesting part which you see is the desire to learn something, right? The people there. If I was living there and I didn't have an opportunity to travel and go and work on a film set. What I think Film AlUla is doing is they're bringing people in, they're encouraging their local population to also collaborate with us. So which for me is really exciting, right? In terms of like most of the films we've made has actually been first-time filmmakers. We've made most of Excel's movies are debutant directors, almost 70 to 80%. So the fact that there is a country there embracing cinema, wanting to do something, for me, that becomes exciting. Like, do I need to even write a story which fits in there and I can call it AlUla? I would. They're letting you come there and shoot. I think so there's a larger thing at play. It's not only that you have to sell my destination and make it for tourism. I think they're going in the right direction. They're making sure as filmmakers we're getting the right tools to come there and shoot. I think the studios they're putting up there, we're having such a large industry. We don't have those studios here in India. Yeah. You know, the kind of locations, the kind of, I mean, the access, like we know, I mean, all of us, it is, I mean, when we shoot, even in India, there is so much of you need to put in terms of prep. Obviously, like locations, you have multiple permissions. I think what they've managed to do is using a single stop for getting you all the permissions required. So I think there's a lot which they're offering. And it's great. You know, I think they're going to learn and we're going to learn when we go along with them.
Adam, I'm going to come back to you. You're a documentary filmmaker. You've traveled all over the world with your films and shooting the films as well, various film festivals. A way to kind of get to know the country's culture and its people is through film festivals. Is this your first time at MAMI? Have you been here?
Yes, first time in India.
What's it been like for you? Have you gleaned anything? I know it's only been like about 12 hours since the festivals begin, but have you gleaned anything about India and about our documentary culture so far?
I can't say that this festival has taught me anything because, as you said, it's only just started. We've been in India for 2 weeks, though, and it's been eye-opening and fascinating, and absolutely. I mean, I think documentaries happen when two cultures or multiple cultures meet and start to understand each other better. I mean, I think in general, film and art more broadly happens when that encounter takes place, and so. You know, much as, I mean, what often happens with us is we end up working with filmmakers from other countries who happen to live in the UK and maybe want to make a film about where they come from. So there's already a sort of cultural movement there. But for us sitting in the UK working with them, it's incredibly helpful to come to the country itself and start to breathe the air, start to hear the sounds. I remember sitting watching a panel a couple of years ago where the people who made Writing with Fire were talking about how, you know, they had to get money from all over the world, and there was some pressure on them to use a sound designer from Finland, and they absolutely refused because they said, oh, you have to have a sound designer from India because they understand the soundscape. You don't understand the soundscape. So I think, you know, absolutely, until you've been to a place, you can't, you know, it's good to come to a place from the outside and have a reaction to it and record that. You know, it's good to be an outsider.
Yeah.
You can't just make documentaries and films from the inside. There has to be a sort of inside-outside thing going on all the time. But yeah, going anywhere. I mean, I'm genuinely really fascinated by what I saw there and feel there's a whole culture there that I'm not aware of. And I mean, this is the joy and the curse of being a documentary filmmaker, is that there's stories everywhere. And every time you read something or see something, oh, there's another story. You know, I would love to find a story there, or in Saudi, or in that area of the Middle East. That would be fascinating.
Especially with AlUla, it's so new to the world. I mean, it's been there over thousands of years ago, but it's so new to the world. It's only been 5 years they've opened their door to tourism. Until 5 years ago, even the Saudis wouldn't even go to AlUla. They believed it was cursed. You know, that's how they thought of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cursed and everything, like Pazuzu.
Yeah.
Wow.
But now, like, it's become a destination for Saudis, people from all around the world. We have people coming from the US, from Europe, everywhere that they want to. And we're attracting more and more tourism. And that's one of our mandates.
Can I ask you a question about that? Because there were some comments here quite rightly about respecting the culture that you come into, you know, but by and large, this is a case of AlUla inviting people to come and shoot in AlUla. And I alluded to it earlier, but to what extent do you have a view about the content of the projects that are coming into your area? You know, I'll give you an example, I mean, a generic example, but if somebody wanted to come and shoot a gay love story in AlUla, would you have an opinion about that? Would that be okay? Or would you say, I'm sorry, that's just not our culture?
No, we won't say, no, that's not possible. We're open to any stories, so long as there's...
That's heartening.
Yeah, so that we're open to any stories. There's certain things that it's just respect anywhere in the world, but we're very open and we're happy to look at any kind of script. It's actually, you know, honestly, Saudi Arabia, when we, so as you know, they've got a film festival, the Red Sea Film Festival. When they opened the first year, everybody was asking the same questions. But the country welcomes every storyteller, and none of the films are censored that is shown at the Red Sea Film Festival. So despite what the media portrays, Saudi actually is very open, and they welcome everybody.
But when producers come to you, you know, these are questions presumably they're asking you. You know, if my not just if my story is about a certain subject, but if my director is gay, or if I've you know, and are they concerned about it?
Not at all.
Do they ask you though?
Yes, they do. They ask, but it's not a problem at all. It's absolutely a great place, and it's very safe for anybody to come.
Please feel free to ask a follow-up question to that, because I'm enjoying this back and forth very much.
I think that's fascinating. A friend of mine one of my friends is a producer of high-end television and is gay, and I asked him this question when I knew I was coming on this panel. So, what would you think if you had the opportunity to come and you were asked to produce something where you were going to spend, you know, several months in Saudi? He said, probably it's okay, but I don't know. He said, it's an interesting question. I don't know.
Fine.
Well, now you can tell him. Have you been following the documentary scene in India? Because it's kind of, we've had a really great moment. We had 2 nominations, 1 win at the Academy Awards, which has never happened before, even though Writing with Fire was nominated, and we're very proud of that film as well. But Elephant won. There are Anand Patwardhan's film just was at Toronto again, and he's here with his film again. While We Watched is here again. There's so many beautiful documentaries this year at MAMI.
India is... I mean, to say I said there are stories everywhere, but to say there are a lot of stories in India is a ridiculous understatement. Yeah. I mean, it's a country of nothing but stories, right? And yes, I mean, absolutely. I think it's fascinating. I mean, this unfortunately has nothing directly to do with AlUla, but I think it's fascinating to observe how creatively prolific and exciting India is for documentary at the moment, when there's no money here for documentary, and there's no infrastructure here for it. So one of the reasons we wanted to come to Mumbai, apart from the fact that we actually have an Indian documentary in development and have others that we're interested in possibly partnering on, is to find out how on earth it happens. You know, what is this community that is making these films? Where are they coming from? You know, we were sat on the next table at a pitching forum a year ago to an Indian filmmaker who was making a film called, now I've forgot. It's something to red light. Basically, it's about you know, prostitutes who set up a theatre company, I think, somewhere in Kolkata. And he started telling us the story. I thought, yet another amazing story. And I've been following his progress around the world by Facebook because we became Facebook friends. And it's like amazing. But I think Indians seem to have to go abroad to get these things funded, as far as I can tell. But as I say, this is the mystery which I'm very interested to penetrate here.
I hope you unearth it, and then we'll exchange notes later on. Last question to our Indian producer panel. I'm counting you in the producers now because you want to feel involved, so I'm going to involve you. Has it ever happened that you've had logistical issues while taking a crew, like the visas have not come through or the equipment is lost on the way and you've had to find local crew last minute because something has happened? Do share those stories if that has happened, and then so she can take notes and be like, make sure this does not happen with us. Ali, you want to start? I will start with you.
I mean, if I may, this was a film called Khufia we just did. We were supposed to shoot in America. 40 visas didn't come. 40.
Yes, Vishalji spoke about that.
So there was just 10 of us, 10, 11. We had none of our staff, nobody. All the actors were on their own, everything. You know, it was a very minimal crew, and we finally went to Canada, not even the States. So that's where we shot. And even those visas we didn't get. So yeah.
I can assure you visa
you're not
is
getting
not a
for a
problem.
long time.
Yeah.
I can assure you visa won't be a
But
problem in
I have
Saudi.
to say
We'll get
this.
those very quickly.
No, which is true, and I have to say this. One of my, and I'm not saying this because I'm sitting here, but one of my best experiences has been landing in AlUla for the first time, because it was just like, it was very cool because it was also Saudi in a new way. I saw for the first time, right? So the door of the aeroplane opened, and on the tarmac, you know, I think it was Fatima or someone, right? She was just standing there. And saying, hey, welcome to Saudi Arabia.
But that's also because, Ali, you're a movie star. People will greet you like that anywhere you go.
I'm not saying that. But yes, that's a great start. Sure, I'm an actor. And of course, I had that little ultra nice treatment.
Yeah.
But everything had changed. And I know Saudi Arabia from before, right? So for me, that was like, wow. And all the visa processes and even all the way till your car outside. I was pretty cool.
Ritesh?
They didn't give you the visa because they wanted to hire some local crew. That was the main reason. So of course there are problems which, I mean, it's not only visa, like, you know, like I think what I usually tell people is that it's inherent nature of what we do is so unpredictable, right? When you're telling these stories, and that comes with filmmaking. So as much as we may feel, I'm telling you, on every movie you learn something new.
Yeah.
There's not a single filmmaker met in the last 20 years who says, okay, I didn't face a new challenge when I was doing something new. There's always...
Smoothly everything has happened.
Yeah. So aisa kabhi hota nahi hai. It's just, it's a myth. So I think, but that's what we love, right? We love these challenges. We want to explore different stuff. So I think, there have been a lot of hurdles which come in many places. Even, I've shot in London thrice. And for all those 3 movies, trust me, there were a new challenge every time. You know, and I've shot there for long periods of time. Like now, next summer, we are shooting 2 movies there. And because it's also changing, you know, the system, there are certain stuff you can do. They'll tell you in summer, you can't do this in this part of London. So there are various challenges which happen. And that happens with I'm sure they face the same thing when they come to India as well. So I think, but like we know, this is what we do and we love it. So we'll take it on.
Yeah, but Adam tries to fly under the radar. So he'll bring a lean crew, go wherever, do his thing and exit before a problem presents itself.
Prep, he would have finished and gone.
Yeah, by the time Excel's finishing prepping, his film is done. Rakesh, sir, same question to you. Have you faced any logistical issues when you've been shooting outside the country?
I've always had some amazing producers and EPs to handle that. I've got my own set of things. If I were to stay focused on AlUla, and we've had a couple of meetings, if we plan properly, and we are planning to shoot after 1 year, we've been planning for the last year and a half. There will be challenges, there will be unknowns, always. And you deal with them when it comes. But to reduce that, I think if there is a sense of transparency as to where you're going and lay it out to the team out there who's going to organize everything, not to be this whole last minute kind of thing. And that will all reduce, all those things will be solved beforehand. And yes, then things will happen and situations can change, weather can change, and you deal with it. That's the nature of the beast as such. And that's what we do. And that's what we also love solving in a very different way. Yeah. But yeah, I think more planning, more transparency, more back and forth, clarity on what is required, and no hidden agendas as such, and all that, and it works. So it's like it's not like going to AlUla, then you become a team. Yeah. Then you're making the same film. You're making that one film. And that one film doesn't belong to me. It belongs to you also as much. So that's the way I would approach it, yeah.
Lastly, Mahsa, last question to you. When Film AlUla is, like Rakesh just said, there needs to be transparency, there needs to be a level of collaboration. So when you were drawing up these tenets that you were going to follow, what is it that you were looking at all over the world? Like, did you look at how other countries are doing it? Do you see what is the strengths or weaknesses of Saudi Arabia and what we can and cannot provide, and then come up with the list? What was that process like 5 years ago?
For sure. I mean, we've looked at many film commissions and film agencies around the world, and what we've also taken into consideration is basically that what the kingdom has to offer. Yeah. And I think we're the Middle East is very unique in that sense, because in terms of the services, we want to make sure everything is the best, and we learn from the best. So what we've done is that we've created processes and policies to make sure we address a lot of the concerns. But as the gentlemen have just said, I mean, there's always going to be challenges. Nothing's going to be perfect. I mean, we're going to do our best to make sure that we address everything, but I'm sure there'll be challenges that we have to then fix for the next film.
I have just been handed a chit that says, please open for Q&A. You hand me a chit, I will read it. Thank you, Mahsa, for that. And thank you for sharing those stories and those anecdotes. And Adam, thank you for your candidness and for speaking. I mean, you're a documentary filmmaker. What option do you have? I am going to open for Q&A. If there are any questions in the audience, we will take them at this time. Else, I think we are good to go. Yes? No? Don't be shy. Okay. I think we've given enough gyan for the day, and I like to believe that we've answered all questions that one may have. With that, okay, it's working. Sorry. Hanu, I'm saying, but koi haath hi nahi utha raha. I have exhausted my questions. I am done. There you go. Oh, there you go. One brave person.
Hello, my name is Rosa. I came from Bangladesh to attend this. And my one question to Mahsa, if I'm not mistaken your name, like what happened is many times filmmaker discovers a location, then there is, what I'm trying to say, that many times we discover a location and then the location becomes that thing, that more people want to shoot there and everything. Does this happen to you in AlUla, that someone came to you first for the location, then maybe this idea generated that you can make a film here, or like this is what, like how that idea of this, that you want to shoot films and that will increase whatever the tourism and whatever the, how that started in your head, like 5 years ago, if you think, like how you started it, that's I wanted to know it.
You mean, how did we start the film commission in AlUla? Is that what you're asking?
No. It's like, let me give you an example. like Sujoy Ghosh shot in Kolkata Kahani. So after that, many people maybe who didn't know Kolkata, they knew that this is a Kolkata, and then they based on story there, or maybe and then it becomes so famous. Maybe people from Kolkata, maybe I'm just saying to give you an example, they put a company together that now if you can come to us and shoot in Kolkata, and we will give this kind of facilities because that films were there or people got excited about it. So my question is like, if maybe someone came to you that this is the location I want to shoot, then maybe you shot, okay, there is a possibility of doing something like this.
Basically, the genesis of the idea of putting together Film AlUla. Where did the idea come from? I think she wants to know.
The idea that Film AlUla was put together.
Yes.
I mean, this is a mandate that came from the government because the
5 years ago.
5 years ago, the Royal Commission for AlUla was set up to basically build that region, attract tourism, and one of the best ways to attract tourism is bringing in film production, like we've seen in New Zealand, we've seen in Spain, we've seen in Switzerland. So that's the idea.
Thank you so much.
Didn't like Kaho Na Pyare change the landscape of New Zealand? Not you guys won't get that context. Like, but everybody after watching Hrithik Roshan in New Zealand wanted to go to New Zealand from India. I think there's like some statistics there that the tourism shot up to like by some percentage because all Indians were going to New Zealand because Hrithik Roshan made that debut. All right, I think we're gonna wrap for today. My name is Sucharita. I thank each and every one of you for your candidness and for sharing those stories. And khana kha lo, go have lunch.
Thanks.
Thank you.